Welcome back to the National Pastime. I am Nash.
I'm Aaron.
Welcome to part 2 of the leading this guy up Mt.Fuji and around Japan who clearly didn't belong there story.
We took an 8-hour nap on the toilet floor and got up at 4:30 in the morning to beautiful weather. Very uncommonly good weather. We get up. Hungarian guy started his climb at 1:30 in the morning. He got up and then went. And we got up at 4:30 and went. The weather was great. Yeah, we just went, and we were powering through. And I look at my buddy and I'm like, "Hey, Pudding, how you feeling after your sleep? How'd you sleep?" And he's like, "Actually, I slept the best I've slept in years." I'm like, "Yeah, I bet, because you've never done any physical activity, and now you have, and now you got a good night's sleep.
Get that nice exhaustion sleep."
Yeah, and I'm like, "So how you feeling? Are you ready for the second leg of the journey? Can you stick to the rest of the plan?" And he's like, "Yeah, I feel energized." And then we got about 15 minutes in, and he was just like, "Ah!" just like wheezing and stuff. But I was like, you're making it up there, damn it. You're going up. You're going to go until you pass out, and then I'm going to revive you, and you're going to go again. The only escape is success or death. Those are your only two options. And so he's going, and it was a really good thing that we got the Fuji sticks, because everything was closed. We never got any more rations, which was fine, because I didn't need any more rations, because I'd already climbed twice before with no food at all. And I was just making sure that he kept eating his rations, like, on a schedule. He's like, "I'm not hungry." I'm like, "I don't give a shit if you're hungry. Put them in your body and drink some fluids." And I was just going. And, yeah, it's a good thing we got the Fuji sticks, because there was nowhere else to get them. And his legs just, like, gave out. Like, his body just hit the wall. And the stick was supporting, like, 90% of his body weight. And when he would stop moving, he would just shake. Like, his whole body would tremble. And he looked like an old, cold, wet dog. Like, he was just like, and I would just laugh at him, like, all the time. It was just like, your body is fragile and frail and mortal. And, but he kept moving, to his credit, but, like, every step was like a fall that was stopped short by the stick. Like, he was basically just, like, crappily pole vaulting forward the whole way up. But he was going. He never stopped going. He was going. And we get to about the 8th station, the upper 7, lower 8th station, and there was like 3 other people on the mountain that had been climbing. And they set it out way before we did. So we start seeing the other people that are on the mountain. They're coming down as we're going up. So we see there's a couple Japanese people, and then finally we find the Hungarian guy. He's on his way down because he set out a couple hours before we did. So we're creeping up on the 8th station. He's coming down, and I'm like, "Oh man, like, when did you leave?" And he tells us, and, we chit-chat for a second, and that gives my buddy time to rest. And I'm like, "Oh, man, so you made it, huh? You're on your way down?" And he's like, "Oh, no, I only made it right past the 9th station. Bear in mind, the 10th is the top." He's like, "I only made it right past the 9th station. Got up there. Right past the 9th station is just so much ice and snow. I couldn't get through it. Like, I tried for like half an hour. It's just too slick, too slippery, too frozen. I could not get over this thing." And I finally just, I've got a limited time. I got to get down and get to the bus to make it out of here before it stops running, or I'm going to be stuck here again, and I can't afford that. I've got a time budget to stick to. So I just had to call it quits, 9 stations, whatever. And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "Honestly, you guys should save yourself the time. It's too much up there. Like, turn back now." And my buddy's like, "Yeah, we probably should, we should probably just turn back. We got to get on that bus and everything." And I was like, "No, we're going to keep going until we can't go anymore. We're either going to get to the top or, whatever. This guy's got to get as high as physically possible." But we're going to make it. It's going to be all right. And I was like, "We're going to get to the top, and then we're going to go to the bus." He's like, "Are you out of your mind? You'll never make it to the top. I just told you that, and you sure as hell aren't going to make it to the bus on time. Like, it's one or the other, but it's going to be neither one. Like, you're not doing either one. You're going to try to get to the top and waste all your time, and you're still going to have to come back down." He's like, "I'm barely going to make the bus right now." He's like, "You are not making it to the top, and you're not making it to the bus." And I was like, "You are not understanding who you're talking to. I am getting up there. Good day, sir. Challenge accepted." So my buddy's just like, "Oh, geez, it sounds like we should probably turn back." And I was like, "Dude, like, we're going. This is happening. And you hired me to get you up there. You square up with this. You're getting up there." And He's just floppy. Like his legs look like just meat socks with nothing in them. Just floppy baby goat legs. Just completely like rubber hose animation style, rubber tube or whatever that's called. And he's just going. And then I'm like giving him the pep talks. I'm like, you can do it, buddy. You're looking good. One foot in front of the other. You got this. And I was like, yeah, man. Like you can do it. You're looking better than I have on some of my excursions where I've been real rough. And I was like, I just climbed Aconcagua a couple months ago. I went blind and burnt my face off. I was blind for a week and I was hobbling around. Like, you're doing way better than me. You got this. And, I thought I was like giving him pep talks, but he just looks over at me and he's like, where do you get the drive to do the shit you do? Like, everything you do is crazy. And now I finally have a taste of what it's like. This is miserable. Like, where do you get the drive for this? And that's when I realized, I was like, well, that's just the creature that I am. Like, that's just what I am. And then I realized right then, like, we were just two very different creatures. That, like, it seemed like we had independently evolved over time and just happened to look similar. Like, we both looked like people or, like, person-shaped, but we were two completely different species. Like, which does happen in nature, by the way. Things independently evolve very far away from each other and wind up looking the same to adapt to their environments. That happens a lot, but they're actually completely unrelated. Like different species of birds and plants and insects and things will independently develop the same characteristics to cope with whatever. So I was like, yeah, we must have descended, like, I don't know where you came from, some fragile moon person or something, but like, and I was just like, wow, like, I don't know that's just what I am. Like, I don't know. And he was just like, I am really feeling my mortalness. Like, I think, and I was just like, I haven't started sweating yet. Like, I'm fine. Like, this is literally nothing for me. Like, it's like, man. And he's just like, I'm dying. And I'm like, well, you are going up there. You hired me, and this is what's happening. And so we get going. He keeps on keeping on, and complaining the whole time, of course, and probably rightly so. But he didn't stop. He would have stopped, though, which is important. He would have stopped well before he even made it to the 5th station if I wasn't there. Like, he really wanted to quit from the center of his bone mass. He really wanted to quit, but I just wouldn't let him. And so we get going. We get to the 9th station. And then right after the 9th station, the ice and the snow. And this guy was not wrong. This Hungarian guy was not wrong. Slippery, steep, deep, obnoxious. And we can't get through it. And like, oh man, is this gonna be it? My buddy's like, this is probably it, like, ninth station is pretty good. I was like, 90% is not 100%. You're going. You either succeed or you don't. You're going. And
he's like, I'm okay with failure.
Yeah, that's what it's basically. I was like, this is fine. Like, that's not fine. This is not fine. Failure is not an option. You're either succeeding or dying. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to unnecessarily endanger your life if I think you're actually in danger. But right now, you're just uncomfortable. You're just tired and uncomfortable. And I don't care about that. I'm tired and uncomfortable every moment of my being. You're going up there. And so, can't get through it. And but then one of the Japanese guys, one of the 2 Japanese guys was coming down, had given me a hot tip. So I saw the Hungarian guy, and then we passed the Japanese guy. I was like, hey man, this Hungarian guy said it's covered in ice and snow up there. And he's like, that is correct. And he's like, but if you're clever, you might be able to just like go around. Like just instead of trying to go up, just try to go sideways for a while and see if there's a place where there is no ice and snow. And I was like, okay, we're gonna do this. So he's like, well, maybe we should go back. I'm like, we're sideways, we're going around. And there was not too far from the actual trail up, a place where there was, I mean, it was off the trail, so you had to do a bit of like actual climbing. But we got around it. And so we got to the 9th station. Right after the 9th station was the ice and snow. We went around it. Less than 10 minutes after this, we were at the top of Mt.Fuji. And my buddy was ecstatic. Like, he did it. And I was like, see, I knew you could do it, man. And of course, he was feeling like super good since he'd accomplished it. And I was like, yeah, I knew you could do it. But like, I thought that was a really interesting, like, commentary on, like, kind of a microcosm on how most people live their lives. What this Hungarian guy did. Because he went through all that shit, all the stuff, waded through all the trouble, made it to the final obstacle, which wasn't even that much, but it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And he's like, forget it. And then he turned around without completing his goal. That's like what most people do. Like they have a goal and they'll put up with all this shit, and then right before they succeed, they don't know they're about to succeed. They don't know they're about to succeed, but right before they succeed, they quit. And like I feel like that's most people, but not me. And then by proxy, not the people I'm around that hire me to get them places. So I was like, yeah, we did it. Just thought that was fascinating. So we chilled up there for a bit and walked around, and I was like, okay, man, it's time to go down. We got to catch this bus. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. I'm feeling energized. Let's do it. And so we start heading down, and I was like, yeah, our goal is the bus. Because we don't have supplies or anything now, and our goal is the bus. But if we miss the bus, we'll just go back to the way that we came up, and we're going down way faster than we go up. It'll only be a couple more hours if we miss the bus, and then we'll be back in town anyway. So who cares? He's like, yeah, that's fine. We could totally catch the bus, not catch the bus. Who cares? And he was about 5 minutes down on his descent. He was just like, oh god, we have to catch the bus. Like I don't have anything left in my body. I cannot walk down any more than to the bus station. Which, now in retrospect, it's kind of funny, but at the time it was super frustrating because anytime I'd be like, here's the plan, buddy, can you stick to the plan? And he's like, you got it. Two seconds later, he's like, no, I can't do this.
Scrap the plan.
Yeah, abort everything. I'm just going to die up here, I guess. And, so I was like, yeah, he's like, we've got to get to the bus, man. Like, I need food. We don't have money for food. There's nowhere to get food anyway. I can't physically walk anymore. We can't sleep here another night. Like, he's like, I need food and water. Like, I'm used to food and water every 2 hours. If I don't get them, like, I don't feel good. I'm like, yeah, of course you don't feel good, but you'll be fine. You only need food. You can go 3 weeks without eating. And he's like, I'm not conditioned.
Usually don't, though.
Yeah, he's like, I'm usually.
That's not my favorite thing.
Yeah, he's like, it's very uncomfortable to feel like you're dying. I'm like, yeah, I know this, but you'll be fine. Like, you're not gonna die. You can go 3 days without water and 3 weeks without food. It's only been 1 day without water and half a day without food. You're gonna be fine. Or half a day for both, actually. I was like, you'll be fine. He's like, yeah, but I don't feel good. I'm like, fine. But it's up to you then to catch the bus, because I'm like skipping and tra-la-laing. I'm totally fine. And he's like, like just trying, like every step was just an arduous ordeal for this guy. And his body gave out so many times. He fell down and ate shit on the way down so many times. And he got, it's sharp-ass volcanic rock. Like, he got a lot of bloody cuts. Like, he was bleeding all over the place. Like, all over his shirt and all over the staff, the Fuji stick. He was just bleeding and falling and bleeding and falling. But we caught that bus. The bus left at 4:20. We got to the bus at, like, 4:16. And we got on that bus. He made it, and we made it back. And I started thinking, like, wow, he did it. Like, he really pushed himself. Is this gonna open up a whole new chapter in his existence? Like, is this gonna fundamentally change him as a person? And then I started thinking about, like, the nature of learning, of, like, experiential learning. And I haven't studied it too deeply, but I just, at the time, quickly thought about, like, how does learning work? So what I came up with at the time, it involves you have a new experience, or you're exposed to, like, a new thing, and then you have to recognize that you're exposed to a new thing. And then through that recognition, or it has some impact on you in some way, and then through that you reflect on that impact and come to some sort of realization about either what it did or what the reflection does, and then you have to be able to recall that reflection or whatever. So if there's a break in any part of that chain, then you don't learn. You don't have any conscious learning. And I was like, this guy's got the shittiest memory ever. He's not going to remember any of this. That's the final link in the chain. Like, this whole thing is completely moot. And I was like, or he can't be bothered to, like, actively reflect on a thing, so he's not going to, like, be able to process the experience. When I say active reflection, I mean, like, you don't have to, like, consciously go out of your way, but you have to be able to, like, process on some level the new thing that you've been exposed to. So it's like, oh yeah, like, maybe he won't have learned anything and won't change at all.
Or maybe the conclusion he comes to is like, that was just awful. I am never doing anything like that again.
I will never
I've learned to not do it.
I will never be exposed to a new thing again. But then I took solace in the Tetris effect. Do you know what that is? Mm-mm. The Tetris effect it's named after the game Tetris. They took people, they took normal people within the normal bell curve distribution of memory and function, and they had them play Tetris for like 8 hours straight. And then they went to bed. And then when they woke up, they were supposed to describe the sensations that they were thinking of when they woke up or whatever. I'm paraphrasing, but this is basically it. I don't remember the exact order of the steps or the duration of time. I'm just guesstimating. But the people who had like a normal function when they woke up or before they went to sleep or whatever, they would describe the sensation of like falling blocks and stacking blocks and shit like that. They would describe things that had to do with Tetris. Mm-hmm. And they remembered, they're normal people. They remembered playing Tetris for 8 hours, and it's, on the forefront of their brain. And the theory goes is that, because they remembered it, the theory at the time was because they remembered it, their brain was actively like, oh, well, we did this for so long, this repetitive task for so long, we need to build pathways that makes us better at doing this. So then they took people with like borderline debilitating Alzheimer's. They had like no conscious recall of any sort. Like they couldn't form new memories. People with brain trauma and Alzheimer's and things like that, they couldn't form new memories. And they had them play Tetris again for 8 hours. And then afterwards, they took a break of a couple hours or whatever. They went to bed. They had no memory of having played the Tetris. But when they were asked to describe their visions and stuff that they'd had, they described the same thing as the people who had the memory of playing Tetris. And so what it was because they had done those things, even though they had no conscious memory of it, their brain was still forming the neural links to make them better at performing that task, even though they didn't have the physical memory of doing it. Or not physical memory, but even though they didn't have like the recall of doing the task, right, their brain was still adjusting to do the task. So the key word there is conscious learning. So my buddy will have consciously learned nothing, but because he suffered and fought through that, subconsciously, I hope, his brain was building the pathways to better deal with hardships and new experiences and goal reaching and things like that. So I took solace in the Tetris effect, is what that's called. I thought that's pretty interesting. One more quick anecdote, and then we'll wrap it up. He succeeded at Mt.Fuji. I was happy to get him up there, and I reminded him very humbly, I might say. I was like, people hire mountain guides all the time and never summit the mountain. You would have been one of those people, were it not for me.
A lesser guide would have given in to your whims to
turn
back.
Not a lesser guide. Definitely not a lesser guide. In fact, if he'd have been a stranger and I would have been the stranger's guide, I would have called it off. I would have called it because he was falling out at a dangerous level. He was a physical risk, but because I knew him personally. And I'd known him for so long, and I'd exercised with him before, I knew what his capabilities were. I knew what both his mental, emotional, and physical capabilities were. But if that was a stranger that had hired me to get them up there, I would have called it. I would have called it at like the 5th or 6th or 7th. When that person was like, ice and snow, you should turn around, I probably would have turned around right then, because it was too dangerous. But I knew him personally, and I knew what he was capable of. So not necessarily a lesser guide, just a guide, an equal guide.
Who doesn't have the same
the same familiarity.
Familiarity. That's what I'm looking
it's
for.
Just like, yeah. If you'd hired anyone else, you would have been one of them. You would have not made it to the top. You're welcome. But he did make it to the top, so he did that. So I think so we got back, and another thing too. He just was a mess when he got to the bottom. I mean, he was wrecked from head to toe. Just even aside from the blood, just the physical exertion. Like he was like bedridden for like 2 days. Like his muscles were not used to it, and just lost so much sweat. And I climbed from the very bottom with him to the very top, back to the bus station, took a bus away. Never broke a sweat. True story. Did not one drop of sweat was formed on my body because I had to go so slow compared to what I normally would have gone. And I was like, feeling pretty good, feeling pretty tough. And so he's my witness. Hopefully he hasn't forgotten that yet, because I keep calling on him. It sucks when people like that are your only witness to great things. Because you're like, you'll never believe this incredible thing I did. Tell them about the thing. And he'll be like, I don't remember. What was it? Like, I lifted an automobile. And he's like, I don't remember that. Like, damn you!
I mean, that
You were the
sounds
only
like
one-
something you could have done, but
You were the only one there. Now it's just my word.
Yeah, but I hadn't eaten in like 6 hours. I just don't remember.
I just didn't have food and water. I was like, yeah, my shoes untied. And you look down at my shoe. Maybe you picked that thing up. I remember the sandwich. Such a good sandwich. Like, I punched a bear in half. It's like, that sandwich was so good. But yeah, so we get back. He rests for a couple days. We liaised with my Kyokushin karate buddy, my best Japanese buddy, Mori. And he's like, yeah, we gotta go out. He's like, how come you guys haven't come by the dojo for training? And I was like, I'm with my buddy, guide him around. And he's like, you said he was all into martial arts and stuff. I'm like, yeah, he is. He is not holding up well at all. Thought he was going to be in a little bit better shape. We brought all our training gear and stuff to Japan. But yeah, no. Like, he would at least have been seriously broken with the training, if not killed with the shape he was in. Just a real bad... Like, you can't just throw someone in with no conditioning like that. And if walking around is putting you in a bad place, you're not ready for bare knuckle kickboxing and like hard martial arts training. So I was like, put the kibosh on that. My buddy was like, oh, you could have gone training, and I could have just waited here till you got back. Like, no, man, I know you. You just would have wasted your time. You never would have got the stuff done on the list. Number one, I'm supposed to be your guide, so that would be a terrible thing for me to do. Just be like, yeah, I should be guiding you around, but you wait here for like 6 hours. I'm going to go martial arts train, and then I'll be back. And then I probably would have done that to someone else, but not him because he's my friend, and that's number two, is that he was my friend, and it's a crappy thing to do if you're supposed to be guiding your friend around a foreign country that just abandoned them for long periods of time. So I didn't do it. But we did bring our training gear. We did go to the dojo, though, to meet them because we were going out to dinner. My buddy Modi was like, oh, yeah, come by the dojo. We'll get some people together. We'll go out to dinner. And my buddy's like, yeah, man, like, what should I expect, like, for the dinner? And I was like, well, we are a notoriously rowdy group of guys, but you never know, like, what's going to go down. Like, we could go out and just have, like a burger and a tea, and then that's the night because people have to work in the morning or whatever. Or I was like, or this could be a rager that goes on for the whole night into the next day. Like, we could be going heavy drinking ramen, heavy drinking karaoke, heavy drinking, like, just not like all night party, heavy drinking clubbing, heavy drinking the hostess club, heavy drinking, yeah, heavy drinking, back to karaoke again because you're so drunk you forgot you were already there. Like, so I was warning him. I was like, it could go either way. It's going to be one extreme or the other. It's going to be max cash or party it up, Andrew WK style. And he was like, okay. So I was like, yeah, just be ready for either one. So we get to the dojo, and no one's ready yet. And everyone's like, oh, shit, it's Nash. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, yeah, all right. And they have this, like, 2-level sandbag that they got a new one of, but I used to be notorious for destroying their old one. So it's like a double-level canvas bag filled with sand. And it's very heavy, and like you hit it for hand conditioning, and it's like very resistant to being hit. And I used to walk in and just be like, BOW! And I'd hit it and like rip the canvas, and all the sand would go everywhere, and it would just destroy the bag. They'd just be like, Nash was here! And yeah, so they got a new bag. So the first thing I had to do was run in and start beating the shit out of that bag. I didn't tear it though. I didn't go ham. But then my buddy Morty, one of his favorite things is if we go out to eat or whatever, he used to just mumble to everyone around the restaurant and like throw down some kind of a challenge of whoever was around, but using me. And so like we would just be at a restaurant, like a traditional, like a izakaya, like a traditional Japanese pub, and I'd be eating and I'd be like, oh, hey, all these guys say that they can beat you in a headbutting competition. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you are now in a headbutting competition because I told them that you challenged them to a headbutting competition. It's like, what? Why? He's like, you got it. You got to do it now. And that's a thing that happened. I won, by the way. And
so there's gonna be like, he just goes around people like, hey, yeah, that guy over there, he's been talking shit about you all night.
Pretty much.
Do you know him?
Pretty much. One time it was a leg kicking competition, like drilling shins into people's thighs. I won, by the way. One of his favorite ones is this Goju-ryu karate style forearm conditioning drill. It's kind of a intricate drill, but basically what it boils down to is you smash your forearms together from every conceivable angle, and until someone gives up, or until someone's arm just breaks. And so yeah, I like cleared a room full of people like that at a restaurant. I won, by the way. But what? They're not all bodily though. Like one of them was just like, oh yeah, you've been challenged to a wasabi eating competition, where you now have to try to eat more wasabi than these Japanese college students. I won, by the way. But so I get to the dojo, and they're like, "Oh shit, it's Nash!" And we're going around, and then there was like some new students there, and then some black belts from other dojos were visiting, and then my buddy Modi was like, "Oh yeah, Nash, he's this and this and this, and oh, you got to do this forearm conditioning drill with him. I bet no one can beat him." And everyone's like, "Yeah, he looks pretty tough. Like, you're probably right." And so no one did anything, and then he was like, "Everyone line up and start attacking Nash." So like I had to clear the entire dojo, which I did. I won, by the way. I destroyed everyone, and yeah. So I beat the shit out of the double sandbag, destroyed everyone in the forearm competition. Then someone was like, "Oh, can you like handstand push-ups?" And I was like, "Yeah, no problem." I was like, "I can do one finger handstand push-ups." And they're like, "Oh, can I film you doing those?" And I was like, "I would prefer it." So I did some one finger handstand push-ups, and then we went out to eat. And but a bunch of people had to work, so it was just 6 of us. It was me, my buddy Morty, another black belt, this Japanese girl who lived in LA for a year, so she spoke English, and then a half Polish, half Russian chick who also spoke English. So everyone but my buddy Pudding spoke Japanese. And then me, Pudding, Polish Russian girl, and Japanese girl also spoke English. So it was just pretty evenly split because there were 6 of us. And we're all just talking. And my buddy's like, "Oh, well, what's everyone having a drink?" And I was like, I don't know, like a beer, I guess. So everybody got like beers or like whiskey or whatever. And he was like, "I'm going to get a tea." And I was like, He's like the hardest partier. And I was like, what's up with the tea, man? He's like, "I'll have to go home tonight. And if I start drinking, I'm not going to be able to make it home." I was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "I just had a kid." I was like, "Oh, what? Congratulations." Yeah, he just had a daughter. Her name is Shizen, but not... So there's a word in Japanese, Shizen, that means nature. Not that. Her name, the she in Shizen is warrior. Like the Bushi, that's that she. And then the Zen, his first name is Zenjuro, so that's Zen. So like happy warrior is like what her name translates to. And I was like, that's fitting for your daughter. And yeah, she's cute as far as little daughters go. And so we just, he's like, "What have you been up to?" He's like, "Yeah, I've just been working all the time and training and stuff, and doing family stuff." And he's like, what have you been up to since the last time I saw you?" He's like, I heard something about you having to like run out of Argentina because they were like out to get you, and then you were blind for some reason on a mountain." And I was like, "Oh yes." I told him about that. He's like sipping his drink, and he's like, "Not surprised. Sounds like you." Like, and he's just like, he's amused but not surprised. And then the half Russian, half Polish girl is like, "What?" Because she's never met me before. And my buddy's like, "Oh yeah, he does this shit all the time. It's like his whole life." And she's like, "Are you serious? Like what?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, one time he was like a monk and he walked 850 miles barefoot doing a pilgrimage for training." And she's like, "That's insane." And he's like, Nah, crazier is one time he climbed Mt.Fuji barefoot from like really far away." And she's like, "That's impossible. That didn't happen. That mountain is super jaggedy. His feet would be destroyed." And he was like, "Yep, that's what we all thought. We thought the same thing. We thought he was just full of shit. We'd already known him a couple years. It was too incredible. We didn't believe him. So just got online and Googled foreigner barefoot Mount Fuji, and the people that live on the mountain were live blogging about him as he walked by. Like this was a real thing that happened. Like it's all real. It's all a real thing."
Oh, any minute Tanuki on the way.
Yeah. He's just a really mythical guy. And she's like, "Oh my God, your life is incredible." And I was like, "Well, it's all right, I suppose. Like, it's all right." And she's like, "Oh my God." And then, so she's like mumbling to herself in disbelief. And then my buddy's like, "Yeah, man, like, you should get some sponsors. Like, don't people normally have sponsors to do the shit that you do? Like, can't you get an energy drink to like fund you to do the stuff you're up to?" And I was like, "Probably." And he's like, "I feel like you shouldn't be spending your own money to do this stuff. Like, you could probably get other people to do it." And I was like, I need help. I don't know how to go about this. And he's like, you need someone to take care of the computer stuff for you because you suck at computer stuff. Just get someone and he's like, get a good YouTube channel. I was like, well, I got that YouTube channel. He's like, get a good YouTube channel. And then, he's...
And I just needed to do like a PR person.
Yeah, he was like, just get people to do all your shit for you that's not you being you, and then give them half your money. And I was like, yeah, I don't give a shit about money. I was like, I'll give you guys a bunch of money. And he's like, yeah, whatever, give me some money. I don't care. And I was like, yeah. And then I look over at my buddy, and he was like, well, I was thinking about like ways to get you sponsors and stuff because, I'm like a computer guy. And I was like, well, do it then. Like, get me the hookup, and I'll give you some money. Not that you need any more, but like, I don't trust him to do it. Not that he's incompetent. Far from it. I don't trust him because he's the type of guy that will like start a project and then like 2 years
lose interest.
Like 2 years later, the start of that project is still on the floor, and he's like, I'll get around to it. Like, I need someone with gumption. Like, if you're going to get me sponsors and, like, run my social media or whatever, like, you got to do it for real. Like, I need 100% commitment. Like, put your dick on the chopping block. Like, if I fail, we're both going down. I need everything in there. Mortgage your house. This is happening.
I can actually do it without the money from mortgage.
It seems a bit harsh. Like, what are you going to do with my severed dick? I'm going to wear it as a necklace. I'm gonna make a ring out of it and just flop it around all the time. But yeah, so as we're talking about getting me sponsors and stuff, the Polish Russian girl was like, you should be in the movies. And I was like, well, I hear that actually pretty frequently, but it just hasn't worked out so far. Like, I've gone out for some stuff, I've had some leads, but it just hasn't worked out. And she's like, you gotta get on it. You are not getting any younger. And I was like, oh, ouch. And she's like, well, I mean, like, like, what are you, like, mid-40s? And I was like, early 30s! And she was like, oh, well, like, you're like in the sun a lot and stuff, so probably, like,
you're weathered.
That's probably got something to do with it. I was like, no offense taken, I have looked like this since I clawed my way out of the womb. I've always looked like Clint Eastwood and Tommy Lee Jones had a baby. I am not offended. I've always looked super old. As a matter of fact, I stopped aging long ago, and I'm actually passing the age that I look like now, so soon I will look young for my age.
So you pretty much look exactly the same as you did the first time I met you.
I have
which
not...
was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah, I have not aged in 20 years. I have always looked like a 30-year-old man. So soon I'll be looking great, because a lot of my contemporaries that are my same age are starting to look terrible. So I'm like, aha, I look much better by comparison. But she was like, I'm allowed to say that because we're the same age, and I too am not getting any younger. She's like, I want kids and like a successful thing, but I don't have anything yet, so I too have to get on it. And I was like, okay, well, if you think I should be in the movies, like, you got any ideas? And she was like, yeah, you should be like, she's like, you know who you look like? Jason Momoa. And I was like, I've heard that before, but I don't think I really look like Jason Momoa. And she's like, let me Google him real fast. And she Googled him, and she's like, you know what? You don't actually look like Jason Momoa in real life. You look like a Jason Momoa character. You look like some of the characters Jason Momoa plays, but you don't actually look like him. And she's like, you know what you should do? She was like, you need to be like Jason Statham and Jason Momoa, and you just need to get into the movies being you in the movies. Like, you're the same guy in every movie, and it's just you. Like, Jason Statham is the same guy in every movie, and it's just Jason Statham. The same thing with Jason Momoa. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm good with that. Like, I love being me. Same with Robert Downey Jr. I feel like he just walks on stage as himself. And he's like, behold, what lines will I be saying in my normal character that is me? But yeah, I could totally do that. So I was like, well, do you have any like ideas? Because I'm game for whatever. And she's like, well, I did used to work for like a PR firm or something for actors or something, and she's marketing or something. And she's like, I might be able to get something going. I was like, do it. So yeah, that was only like a couple weeks ago that I was in Japan, so that just happened. But hopeful. So all right, final anecdote. This I think is hilarious because it has my favorite components to a story, which is where I look like a bumbling idiot and a super badass all in one go. Because you never want all of one or the other. That's boring. You don't want a guy who's a total moron at everything. You don't want a guy who's a super badass at everything. Because where's the fun in that? You can't relate to that. Far too awesome to be related to. But you can relate to this, yeah.
I thought that with Californication.
Yeah?
That guy was way too fucking cool. You can't relate to that.
Oh, talking about the David Duchovny show?
Yeah.
You're talking about the Red Hot Chili Peppers song. I was like, that guy's way too weird to relate to. Talking about David Duchovny. I never saw that show. Yeah, so here we go. Final little story thing. Hoping to bang this out in like 10 minutes. Okay. When I was in Peru, what time is it? When I was in Peru, I met a Japanese girl. Did I tell you guys about this? Maybe I did. I met this girl. I was in Peru, and they brew a lot of tea out of cocoa leaves there. Because they don't have like the normal tea that you might associate with tea, but they have a lot of cocoa leaves, and they brew them into tea, and it helps with the altitude sickness and just general feeling great because it's cocoa leaves. So one day I was brewing tea from these cocoa leaves, and this Japanese girl comes up to me, and in Japanese,
Oh no, I do remember you saying this, I guess.
she says
that
like
she just said something in Japanese, and you were just replied back, but you're just like, it's really weird that she just apparently assumed that I knew Japanese.
Yeah. So, like, in Japanese, she was like, "Is this how you brewed this tea?" And in English, I responded with, "What makes you think I understand Japanese?" And then she looked at me blankly. She didn't know what I'd said. And then in Japanese, I said, "I just said in English, what makes you think I speak Japanese?" And she was like, "Oh, you speak Japanese!" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Yeah, I just only speak Japanese, so I was just hoping that someone else did too. You go with what you got." I was like, okay, so we hit it off. We went out to dinner a couple times, whatever. We hung out a little bit. But she was with some people, and I was muling wine and dealing with fighting with Machu Picchu and all kinds of stuff. So she was like, hey, when you're back in Tokyo, hit me up. We'll get together, and we'll go get some drinks and hang out or whatever. So Japanese is a layered, nuanced language of implications. So what she said was, go ahead and get a hold of me when you get into town. We'll get together, and we'll have some drinks, go out to eat. Whatever. What she meant was, go ahead and get a hold of me, and then you can slam me in like a stack of pugs. And I was like, message received. I will do this. You got it. But I also became friends with like the two dudes that she was traveling with. So we all became friends on Facebook, and we're all just like, oh shit. We all became friends on Facebook, and we're just like exchanging messages back and forth. And, I get a message like, oh, hey, man, you coming here during Golden Week? And I was like, no, Golden Week is a nightmare. I'll be there when that's over. I'm like, oh, hey, what about this? What about this? And so it's like, we're all in a group chat, but then we also have, like, side conversations going on. It's like 3 or 4 of us in this group chat, but then there's, like, 2 of us on this other side, and then 2 of us on this other side of the group, like, a different group chat, and then, like, private messages or whatever. It's all getting jumbled together. I'm just like, whatever. I'm just responding to people and just updating, like, everyone in that group. It's the group that we went out and had the spit roasted guinea pig in Peru. So some of the people were supposed to be back in Tokyo by then. So I was like, I will also be in Tokyo. We'll get together. So we're just like messaging back and forth. So get to Tokyo. We're like, hey, we should get together. Like one of the guys is like, oh, we should get together. And I was like, oh, I would right now, but my buddy is super jet lagged. He doesn't feel good. Like, I will update you when he gets better. So then one of the guys is like, oh, so-and-so's in town too. But then somebody else actually lives in Saitama Prefecture, and that's a 2-hour train ride away. So we need to, like, coordinate everything if we're going to get together. I was like, oh, shit, 2 hours there, 2 hours back. Like, we don't have to get together with anybody. Like, I don't want anyone to, like, feel like they have to come to where I'm at. Because I'm not going to where you're at, because I got my buddy with me, and I can't be slogging him around. Oh, shit, I forgot one of the major things. Okay, so I'll backtrack. I'm wrapping this up, though. A few days later, I'm like, oh, yeah, my buddy, we've been walking around for, like, 10 hours. Now his legs are sore. He doesn't want to go out. And then, next week, I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, then I was like, oh, someone's got to work. And I was like, oh, next week. I was like, oh, we would, but, Mt.Fuji, going to Mt.Fuji. Be gone for a few days. I'll hit you guys up when I get back. Then we get back from Mt.Fuji, and I'm like, oh, my buddy is down for the count for several days. Like, he really spent all he had. But, I'll let you know when he feels better. And then a couple days later, we went to Kyushu to go visit Miyamoto Musashi's grave, which I'll talk about in a second. Although that's basically it. But, well, let's touch on that in a bit. But, went to go visit Miyamoto Musashi's grave, the greatest swordsman Japan has ever known. But then get back, and then the whole time, like, people are like, oh, what about now? What about now? And I just keep pushing it off because, like, I'm with my buddy, and I don't want to, like, force him to, like, go out to dinner with a bunch of people if we don't have enough time and stuff like that. But I did promise them that we would eventually get together for dinner. And then one of the people's like, oh, what about now? What about now? Finally get back from Kyushu, and then we go out to dinner with the Kyokushin guys. And now it's our final night in Japan. And I was like, shit, we have no other choice but to do this. And I was like, to be honest, I'm not really feeling it. Like, I'm tired. We have an early flight in the morning. But I promised, and I'm a man of my word always. All I have in this world is my word and my balls, and I don't break them for anybody. So I was like, okay, well, so I hit up one of the dudes, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm good for tonight. I was like, okay, yeah, I got a flight in the morning, and they're like, oh, so and so's, going to be in the area too. They're going to Osaka tonight, so we'll just get together and hang out for as long as possible. And I was like, okay. And they're like, I'm in Saitama, so I got a 2-hour train ride in. Meet me at this train station. I was like, okay, cool. So talking to my buddy, and I'm like, okay, we're doing this. And he's like, I'm actually kind of tired. I'm like, I don't give a shit, me too, but we're going out. I was like, it's our final night. Got to end on a high note. We're gonna see these people I met in Peru. And he's like, do you remember what these people look like? And I was like, well, good question. Pretty sure that I do, but like we were all like jumbled up in the group chats and stuff. So I was like, let me see what these dudes look like on Facebook. Like, we'll see who exactly I've been talking to. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's this dude with a goatee and this other Japanese guy with dreadlocks, because we bonded over our dreads, because I had dreadlocks at the time. So I was like, awesome, okay, let me check it out. So I could get on Facebook, and they all have like super generic ass like profile pictures and like no actual pictures that they're tagged in. So it's all just like pictures of their dog or like a thing that they bought or like a hat. And then the only picture that everyone is tagged in is a big group picture that I am also in. And I was like, okay, well, I know it's not me that we're meeting. So who else? I was like, I'm pretty sure it's these two guys. And so we get to the train station, and we're standing around. And then, like, right before we leave, like, one of the dudes is like, oh, you're going to go meet at the train station. I was like, yeah. They're like, you bringing your friend? And I was like, yeah. They're like, is he staying the whole time? I'm like, yeah, we got an early morning flight, so we're just going to go, like, bounce around. I'm like, okay. And so we get to the train station, waiting around. Finally, here's someone's like, oh, Nash. And, like, I turn around. It's the fucking girl! I'd been talking to the girl the whole time, but I thought it was a dude because I forgot her name. I had forgotten her name, so I had been putting off getting together with her the entire time that I was in Japan. Like, all the nights that, we went to bed early and stuff, so that Pudding, whoever, I'll have to edit that out, so that my buddy could, be functional at all. Like, I could have been sneaking off to love hotels and stuff with this chick, but no, I forgot it was her, because I forgot her name, and she has a gender-neutral name in Japanese, which is super frustrating because, in English, like, girls' names are usually in a vowel sound and are usually, like, pretty stereotypical, but you do have a few gender-neutral names like Terry and Danny and, I don't know any other gender. Courtney. Yeah, that's true. I do know a pretty tough guy named Courtney. So, yeah, gender-neutral names. So, like in Japanese, girls' names usually end in ko. Like, I don't know, Michiko, Yukiko, things like that. Or they're named after flowers, like Sakura is a cherry blossom. Her name is Yoshimi, abbreviated to Yoshi for short. And the other dude, we were meeting the guy with the dreadlocks, whose name is also Yoshi. And I was like, like, I was so hilariously angry that this whole time I was talking to this dude, putting off getting together with them, but it was actually the girl. And I was like, damn it. So, the whole time I was, like, apologizing for not having enough time to get together with her. And she's like, oh, it's fine. And, like, we went on a Japanese pub crawl, and then, like, halfway through the night, the dude with the dreadlocks was like, well, I have a bus to Osaka to catch, so I'm going to get out of here. So then it was just me, my buddy, and the girl, and we were hanging out, and we're kind of, like, dropping, like, little, like, what are you doing next summer? I'm like, oh, I'm coming back for a while. We're going to have plenty of time to hang out. She's like, oh, that'd be nice. Really like to hang out for, like, an extended period of time. And then I started thinking about it, like, oh, that's why they were like, are you bringing your friend? How long is your friend staying around? And I was like, son of a bitch. Like, totally effed up this whole thing. So that's the bumbling part. But the badass part, the cool part, was we got a bumbling, we got a cool, and we got a badass. So the cool part, my buddy... So the girl's trying to be like a really good hostess in her country to me, and especially my buddy who has never been to Japan before. So she's like, oh, well, like, what does he want that he's never had? It's like, oh, he's eaten like everything that's unique to Japanese culture, but he's never had like a traditional sake experience. And he loves sake, or nihonshu, as they call it in Japanese. And so she was like, oh, see if we got something around here. We went to the most upscale sake place
Where they serve it in like a wood box.
I have ever. Way beyond the wood box. This was like a really, like, imagine like a really hoity-toity wine place, but it's sake. Like, they had like the sake equivalent of a sommelier. And so like we walk in, and my buddy grabs the menu, and he's like, I can't read this. It's in Japanese. I default to you. So he gives me the menu, and I was like, wow, I can read this, but none of this means anything to me.
Yeah.
Like, it's all just jargon. I don't know what I'm looking at. Kind of like if you went to a wine place and they'd be like, oh, the legs on this bouquet. Like, none of this means anything to me. Like, I understand the words, but I don't understand the meaning of the words in this context. So I was like, here you go, Japanese girl. I default to you. And she looks at the menu, and she's like, I don't know what any of this means. Like, none of this means anything to me. So the sake sommelier comes up, and he's like, what sort of sake experience are you looking for tonight? We're all just like, drunk. Like, we don't...
Give us the sampler platter.
We don't know, and that's what we got. So this guy came out with 6 gigantic-ass bottles of their finest, most obscure sakes with legends behind them. Like, he's like, this one is brewed from the water caught at this specific waterfall in Hokkaido while it's falling under a full moon and brewed with this grain of rice that pairs while your saliva is like this. And we just take a sip, and we're like, yeah, that's alcohol, I guess. Like, they're like, this one's good, this one's better, this one's not as good, this is the best one. And then, so we're just drinking it like a bunch of idiots. And then we get the one that we like the best, and then we order hot sake version of that. But the place is so, like, particular about everything. Like, ordering a hot sake is like ordering an entree. So they'd be like, that will be about 30 minutes before it's ready to come out. Enjoy these other sakes while you wait on your main sake. So we're just drinking and carrying on. And we closed the place down. It was really good. My buddy, Uncle Moneybags, was like, don't worry, I got the bill. I'm like, that's great, because you know it ain't me. And so he bought everybody stuff. And then, we closed the place down, and we're looking around, and we're like, you know what, we should probably part ways, because the girl had a 2-hour train ride back. She rode 2 hours to come see me, and then 2 hours back. Didn't even get to touch my wiener. That's
Her loss.
I promised. My mistake. Her loss and my mistake. That was my fault. My bad. My B. But I promised I would make it up to her. She'll get double the wiener next time, or something. I don't know what the math is. She'll get an equal amount of wiener over a greater frequency, I guess. The frequency of wiener will be greater. But she had a 2-hour ride back, and the train stopped running. And if they stop, you get stranded. So it's like, man, I don't want her stranded in a different prefecture, like a different state. And like my buddy and I have a train ride back as well. It's only like a half-hour ride, but it's still a train ride back. We have an early flight. Like, we got to get out of there. So we're like, yeah, we should start getting out of here, because we don't want to miss the trains. So as we previously discussed, there are touts that they stand on the street. They tout whatever, but usually it's bars. So you're walking around in a bar district, and they'll be like, hey, come in our bar. We got a half price drinks. It's happy hour. You come in, sandwiches. We got them. Chicken wings, alcohol. What are you looking for? It's here. I'm holding the menu. So, they just stand on the street and shout and try to lure people in. And that's usually the end of it, unless you're in Kabukicho and the Nigerians are really trying to get you to buy a prostitute. But that's usually it. So we're walking back to the train station. We're walking past this one bar, and a group of these girl touts for this bar, it's just like, you gotta come in. It's crazy awesome. Woo! And there's a bunch of people drinking on the patio. They're like, it's awesome here. You gotta come in. And all the girl touts were like, one drink, just come in, one drink. In English, by the way, which was super weird. Broken English. But they were like, one drink, one drink. They were shouting that in English, and we're like, no. We gotta get to the train station. Like, it's crazy awesome. Look at all the fun we're having. One drink. We're like, no, we're just trying to walk by. And then they don't do this normally in Japan. They walked up to us and gently put their arms around our waist, and then guided us into the bar. And then we just went into the bar. And then we got to the threshold, and they're like, one drink. And then I looked down at the Japanese girl that I was with, and I was like, do you have time for one drink? And she was like, we could probably do one drink. I'm like, one drink! And everyone was like, yeah! So I was like, man, these are the happiest, most aggressive touts I've ever seen in Japan. And geez Louise. So I'm looking at the menu. They have a regular drink menu, but then they have a special that you can order called the Gamble. And you get a pair of dice, and you roll these dice, and what you get is what you get. And you could get some good stuff, or you could get some bad stuff. And then they're like, what are you going to have? I was like, it's got to be the gamble. I'm a man of fortune. Let's roll those dice. Fortune favors the bold. That's me. So I roll the dice, and I won like a whiskey tonic that normally comes in a tumbler, but mine came in like a giant stein. So it was like a triple-size whiskey tonic, but at like regular price. So I got like 3 times the alcohol at a third the price.
Nice.
And I was like, nice. And then my buddy rolled a dice, and he won the same thing I got, but the regular size version, but at half price. And I was
Still
like,
a bargain.
That's still a bargain, still a win. And then the chick won a giant beer. And I was like, okay, this is good. So we're all just drinking. Like, we're sitting out on this giant patio, just drinking and carrying on. And I was like, man, like, we're talking to all the people. They were just like, it's amazing here. And everyone's like having such a good time. And the chicks that pulled us in are like drinking with everybody. I was like, man, like, you guys are like the happiest staff I've ever seen. And they're like, oh, we don't work here. I was like, what? And they're like, yeah, we're just really having a good time, and you were walking by, so we just pulled you in. I was like, that is super weird. Like they like went and got the menus, and they were like showing us the menus and everything. Like they were definitely working there, but for free. Like they were just customers. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But like everyone was just like really chummy, and like I was like, wow, like, and we're all talking and stuff. It's like, how long have you guys known each other? And like, oh, nobody here knows each other. We're all from different.
We all just met tonight.
Yeah. They were like, we all met about 45 minutes ago. But most of us are from different states. Like we're all from different prefectures. We just happen to wind up here, just having a blast. It's like, this is nuts. And then
what are you guys putting in this alcohol?
yeah, and so everyone's just like, woo, just doing it up. And then one guy was like super drunk, and he starts like, I don't want to say harassing like people, but like just making jokes, like a lot of jokes. And he's just like, yeah, look at this guy. He's like pointing at me. He's like, look at this super strong guy. Wow, this guy's got like boobs, but they're made out of muscles. And I was like, yep, you're not wrong. And he's like, oh, is this your girl? Is this your girl right here? You guys having sex tonight? And I was like, yeah, it's unfortunate, but ran out of time. So I'm going to have to come back next year. And then he like looks at the girls, you guys gonna have sex tonight? And she's like, yeah, we ran out of time. And I was like, I knew it. I knew that we were on the same page. I just got visual confirmation. And I was like, yeah, we'll make it up. And yeah, then he was like, oh, this guy looks like he's got bigger boobs than you do. And she's like, I don't know, they're about the same size, I think. And I was like, yeah, I think so. I think we're working about the same size. And he's like, yeah, you guys should like get together and find out. And I was like, that's the plan when we get back together. And he's like, yeah. And then then the chick was like, kind of trash talking back, just joking around. And then she challenged this guy to an arm wrestling match using me. So she was like, yeah, you think you're so tough, you should like arm wrestle this guy. And I was like, do what now? And I was like, oh, yeah, you know it. Like just joking around, just drinking my giant stein of whiskey. And and I thought that was it. I thought we were just like talking like fun jokes. And then they cleared off this oil drum outside. This guy was like, let's do it. And I was like, oh, is this happening? No, okay. Like, I just put my stein of whiskey down, and I walked over to the oil drum. And he's like, you can only use your pinky finger, though. And I was like, okay, all right. So I put my pinky finger up there. And he's like, all right, go. And then I beat him. And I was like, yeah, feeling pretty good. And he's like, wow, you're pretty strong. And I was like, yeah, I'm all right. And he's like, you think you could beat 2 people at once? And I was like,
with just your pinky.
no, I was like, no. He's like, you think if you used like your whole hand, you could beat 2 people at once? And I was like, maybe.
Depends on the people.
Yeah, I was like, maybe. Feeling pretty good right now. And he's like, 2 people at once. And then 2 people came up, and there were 2 people on one hand. So like one guy was holding normally, and then another guy was just like, had his arm on the outside of that guy's arm. So I was like, okay, let's do it. And then we started going, and then I beat him. Like I beat him, and I was just like, I'm the best. And then I ran back to my table, and the girl was like, yeah, you're awesome. And I was like, I'm super awesome. And everyone was like, yeah, you're amazing. And then I like finished my whiskey stein and slam it down, and I was like, challenge to everyone who's stepping up to me. And they're like, well, how many? Like you've arm wrestled like 3 different people here. Like who else do you want? I was like, bring them all on at once. And I was like, however many you can get. And so
you get to a point though where it's like, adding additional people, like you aren't really adding any more leverage.
Well,
may even be counterproductive.
That's where you're wrong. Only if you maintain traditional arm wrestling positioning, because then 3 people at once challenged me. I was like, I'm ready. So then it was like 2 like the normal way, and the third guy was off to the side just pushing perpendicular to the way that I'm trying to go. So this guy's got...
So basically on the opposite side of the other 2.
Yes. So this guy's got incredible leverage. Like, he's going straight perpendicular to where I'm trying to go. Like, that is an exponential increase. That's like 6 people's worth of normal arm wrestling. Because it's 2 normal, and then this guy coming right at a right angle. And I was like, let's do it. And so we're at the oil drum, and I'm like... As we start doing this, like, a giant crowd of people forms, and like we're on the patio, so like people walking on the street are like, hey, what's going on over here? So they're like coming in off the street to go, is that foreign guy arm wrestling 3 people at once? And it's just like, let's do it. And like all these people pulling out their cell phones and they start recording it. And I'm like, ah! And I get them like past halfway, we're about a quarter of the way, kind of freeze for a second. And they're like, oh my God, like, can he not do it? What's happening? And the girl's like, all right, can you do it? Like the girl that I was with, she's like, can you do it? Are you able to, like, is it too much? And I was like, no, I'm just stopping for the camera. And then I roll up my sleeve and like give a peace sign, and I'm like, boom! And I slam all 3 of them down. I'm like, I am a god! I have the strength of 10 men and the fortitude of an army. Now, who's gonna buy my next drink? Because I don't have any money, and whose house can I sleep at? Because I'm like totally broke. I'm a god, though. Like, you know, like a traditional Greek god. I have amazing powers, but I don't really do anything productive with them at all. Just kind of a putz. It's like a demigod. Maybe I'll murder my family in a rage one day. Who knows? Like, it's still
Now I gotta go do all these tasks.
Still a god, though. Still counts. Still counts. But yeah, I was feeling really good.
Divert a river with my bare hands.
That's, yeah, powers. I got them. I mean, I'm not really gonna do anything with them. Just around. Might learn a lesson. People will tell a story about me, but that's it, really. I'm amazing, though. Just know that. Go home. Tell your children about me. Can I borrow some money? But, yeah, so that was that. And everyone's like, this guy's amazing. And I was like, yeah. And then this dude looks at his watch, and then everyone disappears. Everyone's like, we gotta get the train. Everyone just leaves. Like, immediately. And now it's just me, my buddy, and the girl. And we're like, what? What just happened? Like, we're like, oh, God, we're gonna miss the train. So we all just, like, leave. We part ways. I'm like, oh, I'll be back in a year. And she's like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, I will send you a message on day 1. When I get into town, and we will make plans from there. And she's like, that sounds good. And then we run back to the trains. My buddy and I make it about halfway back before they shut down, so we have to walk the rest of the way back. And we just got a few hour nap before we had to get up and go to the airport. Real quick note, we went to Kyushu, to Miyamoto Musashi's grave. Miyamoto Musashi, for those of you who don't know, is the greatest swordsman Japan has ever known. He... defeated everyone. He started murdering people in duels at age 12 or 13 and continued doing so undefeated until he was like 60 or something. He developed his own undefeatable style that he taught to other people, but not what made it effective wasn't the style, it was him. So you can still learn the techniques, but it's not necessarily his style. His style died with him. But he wrote several books, one of which, The Book of Five Rings, became the basis of Japanese martial arts culture and the basis of Japanese business culture and a major pillar of Japanese culture in general. Very influential figure. So I went to his grave.
It's a relatively short book.
It's very short. It's
also like the whole thing that when he wrote it, did he just basically like seclude himself inside a cave for like a week and then just came back with like, I wrote this book.
Quite a while. And then right before he died, when he was on his deathbed giving away the Spartan amount of his possessions, he wrote a distilled version of that book that was just 21 precepts called The Way of Walking Alone, or The Way of Self-Reliance. And it was just 21 maxims, like, do these things to remember. And it was like, you know, have no like predisposed liking or disliking to food. Like, take what you can get. Think of yourself humbly, but the world as grand. Like, things like that. Just things to remember. So the way of self-reliance, basically like 21 things to remember. Like, do not covet. Do not become attached to certain things because they'll bring you down. Like do not seek out love and relationships. Like, if you happen to form a relationship, great, but like, do not hunt for those things. That is an unnatural thing. Like, you're not supposed to be spending your time looking for that sort of a thing. Like, if it happens, it happens. Follow your path. Because if you have to go looking for those things, it means you've left the path that is yours, your path of life. Because if you didn't have to leave your path, then that would have naturally crossed. So it's an unnatural thing to go out and search for someone, because whoever you find is probably not the right person for you, because you didn't come across them doing the things that you should have been doing to begin with. But yeah, just different things to remember. But I went to his grave, one, because my buddy is like into martial arts and stuff, so I wanted him to show that, and then just as a pilgrimage for me to pay my respects. And then a buddy of mine has been asking me for a souvenir from his grave for years, and I keep not getting him one for different reasons. And I was like, I am a man of my word, I have to finally go here and do this. So we went there, and the monsoons were in full effect, just beating the hell out of everything. So we had to just like brave the monsoons, just heavy rain. Went there. It was fine, great, good place. The grave, it's in a park, like a memorial. Real nice. I'm probably gonna put a video up on YouTube. I filmed a bunch of stuff there, so I'll probably do like a walkthrough of it. And then we were like, oh, you know what? While we're on Kyushu, let's go to the famous Kumamoto Castle. Like, that's a big tourist attraction. It's a giant castle. There's only like 12 gigantic historical castles still around in Japan. Let's go there. It's super cool. So we go there. Turns out 2 years prior, a giant earthquake has pretty much destroyed the entire castle.
Huh.
And it's like half up, but you can't really get close to it because it's covered in scaffolding, and there's like giant cranes everywhere, and they're really trying to rebuild it in time for the 2020 Olympics. So it's mostly just like a nightmare situation of like the earth really did a number on the area of Kyushu, like just giant chasms formed, and like it destroyed a bunch of temples and stuff. Really wrecked it hard. We're like, man, that sucks, but that's life, I guess. So we left Kyushu. As we were leaving Kyushu, I kept trying to get my buddy, like, he wouldn't pack right before we had to leave. So I was like, go! And I was so like focused on getting him out the door that I forgot to empty my pockets into my bag. And so I had my my multi-tool and my lockpicks on me, and security was like, you can't have this multi-tool. Like, there's pointy things in here. We have to take this. And I was like, I understand. But then they were like really confused about the lockpicks because they couldn't figure out if they were knives or not. And so there was like a 20-minute thing where they kept like taking all my stuff apart and like just filling different security bins, trying to figure out.
It's dental tools. Yeah,
and they were just like, aha! And they finally found them, and they're like, what is this? I was like, oh, those are my special keys. And they were like, oh, okay. And then they gave them to me. I should have said that about the multi-tool. That they were just like, we can't have this. And be like, that's for my diabetes. Just like I need those pliers to poop or whatever.
Speaking of lockpicks, I was actually reading a thing. So apparently owning lockpicks is perfectly legal.
Sure.
Having them on your person in public in some states is a felony.
Oh, I use them for opening all kinds of stuff.
Because it's
Locks,
basically
mostly.
because it's basically it's paraphernalia with the intent of committing a crime.
What?
So like having lockpicks, owning them in your own home,
right?
It's
That's
fine.
like saying it's paraphernalia with intent of committing a crime, i.e. murder, if you just carry a knife on you. They can't just because you have a tool that can do something bad doesn't mean you're going to do something bad. That's fucked up.
I agree with you.
So do I.
But the laws
That's stupid.
It's not everywhere.
Don't
It's only,
apply
like,
to
certain
me.
States.
The law.
But yeah, and also the other thing too is like they aren't going to find them unless you get.
Unless you
arrested
give them a
for
reason to
something
find
else.
them, yeah. Exactly. Kind of like extradition. No one's going to extradite you until you get arrested for something else.
Right.
It's like, you just stay under the radar. But yeah, I forgot. So I got to keep my lockpicks, but I lost my multi-tool. And I was like, this is your fault somehow. So I was preoccupied with getting you out the door. I forgot to take care of myself. I mean, of course, it's 100% my fault. But I was just like, poop. But once we left Kyushu, the monsoon never stopped. And it flooded all of northern Kyushu and like destroyed a bunch of cities. They had to evacuate like over 1 million people. There was landslides that took out trains, houses. Like all these people were like huddled on roofs of convenience stores and stuff trying to get evac. Like rivers were diverted and like entire people were just swept away and killed. Like a lot of people died. And it's like did a lot of just reshaping the landscape like right after we left. I'm like, oh Jesus!
I heard about the earthquake, but I
Yep.
hadn't heard about all the crazy
Yeah,
flooding.
yeah, that was all while I was there. And my buddy sent me a message, and he's like, "Just heard about the earthquake and the floods. What did you do?" He's like, "Did you punch the ground again?" And that's what happened. And I was like, "Nah, I just removed one of those cursed artifacts. like they say, don't take it because it's cursed and it's gonna do all this stuff. But yeah, I always just assume it's superstition. Like this is probably unrelated that the artifact I took is causing this exact thing. It's definitely not related.
It's just a coincidence. Just a coincidence.
Just a coincidence. But yeah, the very final thing, we fly out of Tokyo, another layover in Shanghai, another round of security things, but this one was a little bit less. But we get to Shanghai, and I was like, "Hey man, we got like a 20-hour layover. It's the middle of the day. What do you think? You know, you want to head on into town?" He's like, "I'm tired," and I was like, "But like," he's like, "Well, you know, we were out late, we were drinking, and then like we had to get up early. I'm just gonna chill here at the airport." I'm like, "But it's the middle of the day. We could go into Shanghai. We could see what it's all about." And he's like, "But I don't want to like pay money to go out and do stuff just to come back where we started." Like, that's literally all of life in society. You just described every single day of doing anything, anywhere, ever. Like, you pay money to go out to do some stuff to come back where you started. That is doing anything in a society. And he's like, "I don't want to do that, though." And I was like, "That's fair. That's at least you know." And I was like, "You know, I have a lot of writing to do. I'm going to take a nap." And he's like, "Let's go. We went to a restaurant that was in the airport. We spent 2 hours there, not getting anything that we ordered. We ordered things and we got things, but they weren't the same things. You know, what we ordered and what we got were different things. Yeah, that ate up a couple hours. The security ate up like 4 or 5 hours. Slept on the marble floor for like 8 hours, and then he played his 3DS the rest of the time, and I wrote the rest of the time. So I mean, it was pretty productive. Then we boarded the plane to fly to Shanghai. And he was not a fan. So it was the Chinese airline on a Chinese-built plane. The Chinese airline wasn't running a particularly tight ship, and the plane was built crappy. If you're like shaped like a human being, like all the chairs were like weird offset angles. So like if you're trying to put your legs straight in front of you under the chair in front of you, like you normally would, you couldn't because you would hit the middle or you'd hit like the edge of 2 chairs overlapping. They were like weirdly positioned, so they weren't in line, they were offline. So none of our legs could go anywhere. And he was sat next to a baby, a fussy Chinese baby. And then like all the Chinese people were doing stuff that's normal in China, coughing really hard and spitting and hacking and yelling and stuff. And he's like, "God, everyone here is like super rude." I was like, "Well, actually here, those behaviors are not considered rude. That's actually the cultural norm here. This is all normal, you know, and that's part of traveling the world. You're in China on a Chinese airline full of Chinese people, so you have to accept the customs." And he was like, "That's bullshit. This is bullshit." Like, yeah, he's not a man of the world. But I knew that, so, you know, I take care of that rental property in between bouts of adventures in order to have, like, a place to stay. So I was like, "Well, you know what? It's time for these renters to move out. So, you know, when I get back, they're going to move out in a couple days. So I'm gonna have some work to do, just a normal amount of work." I figured I'd be pretty busy. So I land, get in. Renters are getting ready to move out. Find out that they locked themselves out one day, and in order to get back in, they kicked out one of the windows to get back in. So then I had to, you know, I've got to get like estimates and stuff, and that's been a big thing, getting the estimates. There was a brand new like hardwood floor finish that they quote unquote spilt hot tea on, completely destroyed this part of the floor, like ripped up, destroyed the finish and everything. So I had to liaise with the floor company to get that taken care of. And there was already 2 people lined up, like vying to rent the place once they moved out. But then a buddy of mine came to me and was like, "Hey man, like my family of 4, I just bought a new house and I sold my old house, but the time frames didn't line up like they were supposed to, and now I don't have anywhere to go. Can I rent this place for just like 6 weeks?" And I was like,
Same thing basically happened to my cousin.
Yeah. And I was like, "Well, let me talk to one of the guys who's like already set to move in and see if it's cool with him, because it's really up to him, because he's already like trying, you know, his stuff is already in there." And And he was like, yeah, okay. So, like, I talked to the guy, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm actually going to Yellowstone for a while. So, like, it's cool. Like, you know, I'll just move in when they move out. And I was like, okay, you know, that's cool. And then, you know, I'm trying to, like, get all these moving pieces together. And then right when my buddy's family of four, the day before they're supposed to move in, the water main that runs through the street right in front of the driveway exploded right in front of the driveway, took out 5 feet of the driveway. Just rocketing water up into the sky. And then to a lesser extent, it happened on the opposite side of the street. Breaks open. And then I was like, oh my God. And then the middle of the street starts hissing. And I was like, I think this street is going to collapse. I think the road's going to collapse into like a giant sinkhole where these pipes used to be. And then it did. And so I called the city. And I was just like, yeah, no rush or anything. But the water main exploded and took out 5 feet of my driveway, and the roads collapsed, and now the entire neighborhood is flooded, and the water's not stopping. If you could just send someone out here whenever, no rush. Just don't want this house to be swallowed by the earth or anything. So they sent someone out, and they shut the water off.
He's like, yep, it's a big hole.
That's a big old hole. Yeah, he actually, okay, so they sent a team out. They shut the water off. They had to get it all pumped out, and then... so their primary job was fix the pipes. So they fixed the pipes, but there's still like giant hole where the last 5 feet of the driveway used to be, and then a giant hole where the road used to be. It's like 8 feet deep and 5 feet wide, and the one on the road is even bigger. Like probably like 8 feet deep, and like it's kind of a circle. So I'm gonna say 7 feet diameter. Is that right?
All the way across? Or
Yes.
7 feet around?
No.
So, okay, so all the way across, so
Yes.
7 feet.
Yeah.
Diameter.
So they fixed the pipes, so then the water came back on, but then they sent a guy up to the house, and he was like, yeah, man, fix the pipes, so your water should be good eventually, but don't try to back over this hole. And I was like, don't try to back over the 5 foot wide, 8 foot deep hole? I won't. Thank you for the warning, sir. So I was like stranded there for a couple of days, and he was like, yeah, there should be a guy out to, you know, they're going to fill these holes, and they're going to asphalt, you know, they're going to fix it all up, they're going to fix your driveway and everything. And I was like, okay. I was like, is that you guys? They're like, we're the pipes guys. You got to talk to the roads guys. I'm like, all right. So they leave. A couple of days later, people show up, and they fill the giant hole in the street with gravel. Then they put a giant metal board over it. And then they fill the hole at the end of the driveway with gravel. And I was like, is this it? Like, does this count as fixed? And they're like, no, there's going to be the asphalt guys are coming out to asphalt over this. And I was like, all right. When is that going to happen? And they're like, well, they said tomorrow, but I happen to know a guy who's on the team, and they're at least like 8 days backed up. So I don't know, like a week and a half maybe. So now that's where we are now. That all just happened. So like the second I got off this plane, it's been a constant shitstorm. Then I had these window estimates. This just happened today. So I had these window estimates to fix some of the windows. One of them's still broken from when the place was burgled. So it's just like, you know what, I'll fix all these windows at once. And I had the window estimate out. Several estimates. One of them was particularly good. Like, all right, cool. Like, this one's going to get fixed. This other one we can take into the shop to get fixed. This other one we're going to get plexiglass. Because it's a basement window. It's got a dryer vent coming out of it. We'll get plexiglass. Cool. Good estimate. Then they email some estimates that are totally different from what he verbally told me. Like different work order, different prices. The guy's name on the business card that he gave me versus the name on the estimate that he emailed me are like not even the same name. And I was like, this is weird. So I go into the shop and I was like, hey, like, you guys sent me this estimate, but it's totally different than the estimate that the guy who gave me the estimate estimated. And also the guy's name is wrong. And I was like, what about this plexiglass? I was like, what about fixing this that I'm bringing into the shop? They're like, oh, we don't do that. I was like, oh, he told me if I bring this in, it would like save on some of the labor and like you could build a new frame for it. And they're like, yeah, we don't have that equipment. Like, that's not a service we do. I was like, okay. I was like, what about this thing's talking about like glass sheets for like $200. This guy quoted me $12 a sheet for plexiglass. This other thing, and they're like, we don't have plexiglass. And I was like, he gave me very specific prices. Like,
this is your business card,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I was like, he gave me very specific prices. I was like, it was $12 a sheet, 2 sheets, $75 in labor, piggybacking off in this other job. And they're like, yeah, we do not have plexiglass and have never had plexiglass. And I was like, well, there's like a hole in the window for the dryer vent. Like, can you either like, yeah, we don't cut window holes. And I was like, who is this guy? And why is this guy's name
Why
different?
is he giving me a card
Yeah.
for your place, but you don't do any of these things? Does he work here?
Yeah, and they were like, yeah, we apologize. He is no longer with the company. And I was like, he gave me the estimate 2 days ago. Like, did you just now decide to fire him now that we're having this conversation? Or did he kill himself? Did you kill him? What's going on? But yeah, that was...
The thing that makes me wonder is my uncle works in the contractor business.
Yeah.
And just from experience with that, there's a lot of guys who basically, when they come out and do those estimates, they may be telling you things that they're just going to do themselves. And maybe not things that the company does.
Well, this guy...
And then he just pockets the money.
Right. This guy made it a point to say that he wasn't the one who did any of the work.
So then that makes no sense.
Right. Maybe
he knows a guy.
Yeah, I was going to say, maybe he knows a guy. But, like, yeah, it was weird. Like, he was writing down numbers. He quoted me very specific figures. Like, oh, this is going to be $12 a sheet, and that's $75 a labor. And this guy will cut the thing right here when he's here fixing this other thing, and you could take it into this. And they're like, we don't do any of that. Like, well, who is this guy? Like, he's no longer with the company. I'm like, this was 2 days ago. What? But, yeah, so cautiously optimistic. We did place a work order with them. They were,
and we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. But yeah, so this has been part two of the recent Japan story. Part 2 of guiding pudding around Japan is what this was. So yeah, I guess any final comments, since I'm gonna have to break this up into two episodes.
This might be our longest one.
This is by far our longest one. Congratulations on sticking to your time thing. But yeah, any final comments, questions, concerns?
You say pudding sounds like probably how I would probably be.
Probably. But here's the thing, you probably have a more realistic expectation and like assessment of your abilities. Whereas like but he doesn't know.
Like I would go in from the start like planning. Like, we're going to stop at the halfway point.
Right.
Rest overnight.
You're like, I know I'm going to
I
be
know
tired and
there's
miserable.
no way I'm going to do it in one go.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, I feel like he doesn't correctly estimate challenges or, like, things that he will face or his own abilities. Whereas I don't correctly estimate the challenges I will face. But my extreme abilities can overcome...
push through it anyway.
Yeah, I can overcome... the challenge because I have such incredible ability to I can fall back on me, but like he can't fall back on him, so he should probably learn how to like more analytically assess situations, whereas I can just fumble my way through everything, Indiana Jones style. It's worked out so far ish.
As far as like just if I know I was going to be in Japan for like a month.
Yeah.
I would definitely be out doing stuff every day. Like there might be like, I don't know, there might be a day where like, let's just take it easy today.
Yeah. Yeah, he never wasn't doing a new thing, but some days were easier than others. I always made sure that he did a new thing every day and it was related to his list and was like having a good time. I don't want to push him too hard because, no one wants to be miserable.
I don't feel like I would be like dragging my feet doing that.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing.
Now, as far as climbing Mount Fuji, I'd be dragging my feet doing that.
Yeah,
but,
well, maybe.
But that's probably more
maybe
just
you
like
wouldn't want to climb
physical.
Yeah, maybe you wouldn't want to climb.
I mean, if I was there, I would try it. If I was there and I had the time,
I believe, and that's what I kept. You could definitely do it. And that's what I kept telling him. I was like, old ladies and little kids do this, and he was like, I don't see any old ladies or little kids around. Like that's because it's not the climbing season.
We're in the off season. There's no one around.
Yeah, there's no one around.
Because they passed us.
Yeah, they passed us. We're going so slow. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I believe I could do it.
You definitely could.
For me personally, it's primarily just time.
Yeah.
Time and money.
I could see that. But, yeah, you could definitely do it. It's not that expensive, depending on how long it takes you to climb it. Right. The longer it takes, the more expensive it is, of course, because you're going to need food and resources and stuff, stay there and whatever. But it's not too bad. You could bang it out. You could always take a bus halfway up.
Nah.
And then just
like you said, that's
not it.
That's not climbing the mountain.
Not climbing the mountain. You didn't do it. You did a thing, but
that's
not
getting
that
shuttled
thing.
Halfway up the mountain.
Yeah, exactly. That's not the same. But yeah, it's something. You could definitely do it. We could. Now that I've done it, that was my third time. Literally didn't break a sweat. And of course, it was the off season, so our sticks did not get branded. There wasn't even anyone up there to screw with me this time. Like no one was up there to dick me over and just be like, "Oh, come back tomorrow."
So have you ever gotten it branded?
Never.
That's what I thought. It's like, so you've done it 3 times.
3 successful climbs. Yeah, I'm
brandings.
0 for 3 for brandings. And it was so easy for me to climb this time. Going up the normal way, the way a normal person would go up, like a regular trail. I wore shoes this time because before we left, I was afraid if I didn't wear shoes that I would slow him down. Like, because not wearing shoes is, you
brutal.
go very slow. You go very slow. And then the whole time I was like, I could have been barefoot right now. I could have climbed this barefoot again. You're moving so slow. But I was wearing shoes, just going at a regular person speed. Didn't even break a sweat. I was like, man, I could climb this mountain like 50 times now. Like, this is nothing. Doing it the normal way.
I've started sweating now, but it's mostly from just I need to really pee.
Yeah. I have to go to the bathroom. But yeah, I guess that's it. So thanks for tuning in to this 2-part episode of The National Pastime. I'm Nash.
I'm Aaron.
Panache!
Nash.
Nash!